Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's percolating. Good morning. Yeah. Good morning to the people on Facebook. Good morning to the people on IG. Good morning to the people on the YouTube. Good morning to the people on LinkedIn and Twitter too. Java. Percolating. Get a vibe, stay ready. Truth in the cup, keep it strong, keep it steady. Pull up a chair, yeah. Take a sip it with me. Good morning, good people. Java with Jimmy. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, the love percolating. Java with Jimmy. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good morning. Yeah, the love percolating. Yeah, Java with Jimmy. Good morning. Percolating. Yeah, we in it. Yeah, we in it. Good morning. Good morning. Java with Jimmy. Percolating. Yeah, we in it. Yeah, we in it. Good morning. Good morning. Java with Jimmy.
Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, and you are in the Java Cafe. It is the third Tuesday of the month, and it is a Your Healthy Java segment today. As you all know, for the past couple of years, I have been in a great partnership with Action for Boston Community Development, otherwise known as ABCD, specifically with the Health Services Department. And so over the past year or plus, we've been working with them to bring attention mainly to information around sexually transmitted infections, HIV and AIDS, and unplanned pregnancies, with also, as we often do, remind you of the 3 locations where they are kiosks that 24/7, confidentially and for free, you can get health kits, sexual health kits, condoms, testing kits. Those locations are, and I'm going to get ready to bring in my guests, but I'm going to try. Those locations are it's been a while. 110 Claiborne Street, 535 Warren Street, and 741 or 714 Parker Street. Did I get that right, Maureen?
Close.
Close. Good morning.
5 Warren Street and 714 Parker Street.
714 Parker Street. Okay,
Yes.
I know I was there.
I get the numbers mixed up all the time.
But definitely the numbers, and that could be a segment in itself, because we just corresponded yesterday about, we're going to have updated numbers around STIs, HIV, and unplanned pregnancies soon as we kind of relaunch, because today is a little dismal, a little rainy, but in about a month now, cuffing season will get ready to kick itself off. And so we're going to have some updated numbers, speaking of numbers. But again, you can get 24/7 free confidential information at the kiosks that ABCD Health Services have provided to the community. But today, we're deviating a little bit. We're talking specifically about men's health. Maureen and I have been talking about men's health. We were going to try to do an in-person something as well. And this is something that's been in the works for a while, but we are glad today that we are going to talk about this subject. So Maureen, why is it important today that we center and talk about men's health? What are some of the key priorities we want to cover? And then from there, we'll get ready to bring in our guests. We'll let you go and we'll have our conversation with our 2 guests today. But again, welcome to the Java Cafe. My co-host, as you are not a stranger.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Maureen Scott. I'm the Director of Health Services at ABCD, and welcome everyone. I'm glad to be here again today. Men's health is important. It's a subject that we don't often talk about. We focus a lot on family planning, health, sexual reproduction, and that includes men as well. June was Men's Health Awareness Month, so we're catching up now. It's more about treating illness in men. It's about supporting men to living longer, healthier, and having more fulfilling lives. As partners, which is the theme of partnering with men to increase their longevity, as partners, families, healthcare providers, and communities, we can encourage men to prioritize their healthcare in their physical and mental health and seek preventative care. We're going to raise awareness today about common health issues affecting men and encourage early detection, healthy habits, and regular checkups. Support should begin early. Preparing young men for adulthood means helping them make healthy choices about their bodies, relationships, education, and finances, of course, and future goals.
So
When we support health and well-being of boys and men, we strengthen our families and our communities.
I kind of, and excuse me for interrupting you, but
No, it's
it's
okay.
important to talk about the financial piece because for the past couple of years, I've been naming how that has such an impact on our mental health. And as we've discussed before, body keeps record if you're stressed out, things like that. So it really caught my attention. And so,
Yes.
Maureen, I'm getting ready to bring in our guest rather,
Yep.
and we're going to let you go after that. But first, we're going to bring in Brother Mackenzie, and then also Dr. Carson as well, who are our two obviously resident experts because they are men. And one is obviously a physician from Harvard Street Neighborhood Health Center, and Brother Mackenzie is also from the Boston Public Health Commission. So, Maureen, say hello to the gentleman. Thank you for
Hello,
setting
Dr. Carson again. Thank you for your participation. And Mac, I've known forever, it seems, because I worked at Boston Public Health Commission. So welcome, Mac, and thank you for stepping up.
Maureen, thank you
You're
for being
welcome.
here. And
Thank
Dr.
you.
Carson can say something as well. Maureen, thanks for being with us. I'm
Thanks.
going to grab these guys and have the conversation, and I'm sure you'll be there in the background.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna attend. I gotta run to a meeting, but I'm gonna keep my phone on.
Absolutely. And thank you for all you do in the health services space, family planning, men's health, the kiosk, and all the other stuff, and the data.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good show.
Thank you. Mackenzie and Dr. Carson, thank both of you for being here. Now, I'm just going to say something and get it out the way just very quickly. I don't know, Mackenzie, I need you to lean up and lean in a little bit. I'm not sure. You work at the Boston Public Health Commission, correct?
Correct.
I'm just trying to understand what's going on with your non-Boston Public Health Commission attire there at the top of your head, sir.
So let's break it down. I get this a lot, right? So when I buy gear because of the way it looks, right?
The color.
Yeah, the color. So
Mhm.
gotta be honest, New York makes a lot of appealing apparel, right? So I buy clothing or based off. I'm a very stylish guy, so I buy it based on the looks, the logo. So that's the way I buy it. So I get that a lot. I buy buffalo hats. I wear a Knick hat. But I also wear other team, the athletics hats. So I would buy things to coordinate my outfits, I should say. And I like teams based off the players. Like Baltimore, I like it because of Lamar Jackson.
And listen, I'm not going to give you space to let you sit up here. I mean, you can talk about Jaylen Brown, but listen, no, we're going to stay focused. And Dr. Carson,
Yes.
I'm sure you understand, and you can jump in here as well. This sort of fellowship and banter among men, I think, is definitely important. Being in community is important. And Mackenzie, in all seriousness, you talked about sort of a image and fashion, yes, thing of presenting yourself. You know what I mean? So I want to tie that back, and we'll talk about that later about, how important that is and how we view ourselves. I was messing with you when you first came on screen before we started. I'm sitting here. I said, oh, yeah. Okay. Dr. Carson, good
Yes,
morning,
good morning.
sir.
Good morning.
let's invite you into the conversation. And so, Dr. Carson, we're going to jump in and I'm going to just ask you to greet the audience. One of the first things I'll ask you to do, if you don't mind, based on what you're seeing, you being a man, treating, men, if you could give us at the end of your greeting one word for men's health.
Okay, well, first, I'd like to just thank ABCD for inviting me to do this. Men's health in general, people think about it after the fact, after there's a problem. And the thing is, if you think about it, all diseases really start early and are hidden and really depend upon lifelong, unless there's genetic factor, lifelong things that have occurred and then suddenly they become clinically significant. But disease processes stay quiet and stay indolent, if you will, for a long time. So one word, prevention.
Keyword. And you talked about something that's going to lead me into first. I'm going to ask Mackenzie to speak to this for me. But one of the things that is very interesting, Mackenzie, Dr. Basola and the team there just issued that health report. I got to work with Brother Jeremiah at the Health Summit. I'm not sure if he was there and we just missed each other. But prevention is key for Dr. Carson's word. I'm going to ask you to say hello and greet the audience, even with your matching attire. And then we're going to get into like longevity. What did some of that report say, your familiarity? And let's talk a little bit about Black men as well. But with all due, brother, good morning and thanks for being in the Java Cafe.
Top of the morning. I'm glad to be here. And you said describe one word, kind of like think which word it would be. I'd say ignorance. Lack of knowledge and ignorance.
Okay, I just have to be authentic and say that that's one of the reasons that we hold this space on the first and third Tuesdays for Your Healthy Java is to make sure we get the community the health information it needs to get and stay healthy. So I appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about where we are with men's health and long life. Our Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley often talks about specifically Black men that they deserve to live long. Go get home and live long. Where are we with men's longevity in Boston?
It's something that we constantly work on because as a Boston Health Commission, we do this lesson with the health equity. And one of the lessons we do is kind of talking about the different neighborhoods and the life expectancy of which neighborhoods we live in. So in my department, which is the CAD department, we talk about the health equity all the time in our classrooms. We're making small strides there, and the goal is to educate them. The younger you get them, the more they can just tell their peers to. So I mean, it's work, continuing to do the work. So we have a long way to go, but we're getting there.
And what are some of those? Dr. Carson had mentioned, prevention as his word. You said your word is ignorance. How can we prevent ignorance, if you will? And what are some of the areas where the commission, either through collaboration, network, direct services, what are some of those places that the commission is working in?
Yeah. So again, with me too. So we're in the schools. So we talk about the sexual health piece, the anatomy, and pushing to get tested is major. So doing the reproductive system, the male and female anatomy, I think is important, just not for young people, I think for everybody in general, because you can go to a cookout and ask somebody, how can you contract an STI? And they still hold on to the old myths of what their people would tell them, or the pull-out game, right? Not understanding that pre-cum can get somebody pregnant. Well, we don't know how we got here. We don't know if we're ejaculatory babies or pre-cum babies, right? So people are ignorant with some of that stuff.
Wait. So we usually do the health services thing after dark. Yeah. I love the fact that we're doing this in the morning and we can have this real conversation. So let's keep it going.
So I'll keep it PG, but a lot of this stuff too is like not understanding how the body works itself. So educating young parents and young people, right? Those who are sexually active, who are not sexually active, give them the tools and education. So creating more peer leaders so they will listen to their peers, right? Educating, so having more summits, sexual summits, health summits to educate people more on these topics.
Absolutely, Dr. Carson, and you're free to speak however you would like within,
Yes.
representing the commission, but because we need to have these conversations. You said ignorance, and sometimes you want to meet people where they are, and that is part of the vernacular. If I pull out, she ain't gonna get pregnant. What doesn't happen from the time that you was in there until the point that you feel you need to pull out? So let's keep that there. Dr. Carson, if I could ask you, sexually transmitted diseases, HIV and AIDS, unplanned pregnancies, too, a lot of Mackenzie's point, you talked about prevention. What are some of the other areas in which you work that are preventable when it comes to men's health, and areas that you may do during a yearly physical exam? What are you asking about? Give us some insight there in addition to what Mackenzie mentioned about sexual health.
Sure. So if you think about the way doctors have tools and how we can assess and we say diagnose, but how we assess someone when they walk in the door and what we try to talk about. First of all, I think inherent to the conversation and how a good clinical encounter works is it's based on trust, and it's mutual trust, that you trust the physician who's in front of you, and that to be able to say what needs to be said, and that that they're going to have the best interest for you in terms of taking care of you. So mutual trust is really fundamental where it starts. From that, if you look at the tools we have, it's asking questions. There are tools that we call screeners that would give us scores to help us understand if there's something more we should look into. We have our physical exam after we've asked questions, and we have blood work and other kinds of testing, whether it be urine or other diagnostic imaging, etc. So if you think about it from that panorama, and then you prepare for it. So, for example, to know what your family history is, things that predispose you to certain kinds of diseases, that helps us understand what to think about, again, to do early prevention. Now, sexual behavior is a very important component, and that relies on really understanding certain behaviors. And so there are different communities and different orientations that have multiple partners versus people who are more monogamous, and therefore those populations are at higher risk. So when we do a physical exam, what you'll see us do is you'll have a vital sign done, which basically means taking your blood pressure. We'll take your weight and height, and we'll determine if you're overweight or might be much more than overweight. Then, based upon a bunch of questions that we ask, those screening questions I mentioned, the physical exam that actually looks at the various parts of your body and listens and feels to see if there's abnormalities after talking with you. Then the testing we do looks at general things, including how your liver is doing, how your kidneys are doing, how your lungs are doing, other testing for just the blood cells themselves. We test for diabetes with certain markers. We test for effects from diabetes and hypertension within your urine. And then we look at sexually transmitted infections, which includes HIV, but there are others that are prevalent. One of the things, for example, is what's called human papillomavirus, very important for vaccination. That's what you hear women getting Gardasil, but it turns out men should get those vaccines as well. So vaccination for prevention is another component. And then there are the direct sexually transmitted diseases, which includes things like gonorrhea, chlamydia, other things like HIV, trichomonas, etc., which are all preventable and are curable if you understand that they can be taken care of in an actually relatively short period of time, or even with one injection. But on the other hand, you also need to understand that those persons that you might have been with also need to be have basically treatment, because otherwise it's a continuous cycle where it just continues to reinfect.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump to Mackenzie and ask him to speak specifically to where he observes where young men are. But Dr. Carson, in my partnership with ABCD, one of the things that Maureen has mentioned, I think we had a clinician on, if it wasn't Maureen, that said, what you just talked about when you got to the sexually transmitted diseases, there would maybe be a presumption that that is more prevalent among our younger crowd. But Dr. Carson, Maureen is attested, and I don't know if in your practice and your screenings and whatnot, sexually transmitted diseases and HIV, the age of a new infection, is it rising?
Yes,
Okay.
very, very definitely it is.
Okay. We may need to do a segment just, and I think we did one before, but maybe a catch up because our seniors, Maureen, to my point earlier, I didn't finish it. Maureen had talked about that she had had a patient that was in a nursing home and he had come in with, 2 or 3 STDs, either the same one twice or 2 different ones, and living in a nursing home. So, it's very interesting. Mackenzie, if I could totally deviate there, away from the sexually transmitted diseases, one would presume that maybe younger men may not have to worry about cancer screenings, mental health, things like that. Where are we with young men when it comes to preventative care and making them more educated to no longer be as ignorant about their health?
It starts off with like positive role modelship. So me being in schools, I'm able to pull them aside. We do a testing day once a month, right? But ours are open, so kind of educating them and using my relationships to talk about the life expectancy, to talk about how important it is to get tested all the time, especially if you're very sexually active. You're getting it popping. They should say, "Oh yeah, it's cuffing season," or now with social media that you're being exposed more. Like if you do something to somebody, they can expose you for giving them an STI, right? So, like again, too, it goes back to image. You want to be known as somebody who takes care of themselves, longevity, and also too is like just taking care of your health in general. Is where I try to educate, but I use my relationship. So if we have more more boots on the ground to explain to them like the importance of getting tested, I think it will go a long way. 'Cause I think people used to use scare tactics. I don't think that does anything anymore. I think being real with them and telling them the importance of it is key, and also incentivizing. I know it sounds insane, but incentivizing getting tested.
It's very interesting. I'll say to you that I'll start with this and then go with my other thought there, that incentivizing is very real. We had a health fair. We have a health fair every year. And for the past few years, we give out thousands of dollars to incentivize people to come and get the information. So shout out to ABCD for hosting that for us for quite a few years. Mackenzie, I want to come back to you and ask you, where are young men when it comes to health? And we'll bring Dr. Carson in as well. When it comes to mental health, when it comes to violence, impact of social media, where is that in sort of that preventative piece? You raised it a little bit, and then we'll get into some of the financial and things like that. But where are our young men? And you can feel free to refer to the report, any data you have there as well.
Okay, so as young men, just seeing it, because I'm analytics, and I like to go through a lot of personal, like seeing it. One of the things that I've seen, and I've also started in the process of developing an emotional intelligence group. I'm seeing a lot of young men who witness domestic violence, right, are now becoming the perpetrators, right? One conversation I had with a group of young men listening to the violence, right? And like if you wake up every day to go drilling, and they call it, or doing these violent things, does that make you a sociopath? Or so breaking those things, those nuances down, and also towards the accountability piece. It comes with accountability also. The accountability piece is big. So if you can't think about what you're doing and being accountable, you see nothing wrong with it. In the consequential piece, right? And I think for me, mental health, we all experience some type of form of trauma, right? So I think starting early with like emotional intelligence in the beginning and understanding their love language too will help with the violence.
Wait, hold on. Let me just ask for a second. Emotional intelligence and love language. We're talking about men's health. So let's just go there for a second. That don't make brothers soft to be emotionally intelligent and be aware of their partner's love language, or working with their partner so they know their love language. Does that make them quote unquote soft?
So I, even till this day, so my son just graduated high school 3 years ago. And to myself, I was telling me, well, I can't cry, I can't cry. And I just couldn't control my emotions. I cried out of happiness, right? And like, does that make me soft for crying in front of my son? So even as a grown man and an educator, I then had to condition myself to be okay to cry, right? So a lot of people tell you can't cry. So I had to condition myself to cry. So explain to the young men it's okay to cry. I think we need to show more emotions in front of our young men. Like G Herbo did an interview where he was crying, where he was genuinely hurt and he was crying. You know what I'm saying? I think more high profile rappers or basketball players gotta kind of like promote it's okay to show emotion. And when the only emotion we show is violent emotions, like we're gonna put in that pain, right? But the pain, we're not showing our pain. So I think too, being able to express that, also running more circle groups that pertain, that are like, that relate to the young people. Because a lot of times too, I think people in this work are self-healing. So I think before we're doing this work, we got to be healed ourselves.
Mackenzie, Dr. Costa, I'm going to ask you to come in. You can respond to that, but then after that, if you could also talk about the relationship between being emotionally intelligent, stress buildup. There's that book, the Body Keeps Score.
Keep score, yes.
Please respond to that, and then if you could help us understand the relationship around what Brother Mackenzie said and how that actually impacts our physical health. Go ahead, sir.
I think there are a few factors to include. So there's a whole component that really influences, which is the cultural background of the individual. There's certain cultures that the idea of talking about or even bringing up that there might be mental health issues is really almost taboo or foreign to them, something that seems to be signs of weakness. Also, the data on depression is very interesting to me because it shows that men in general don't show sadness as the way that they show depression. Men tend to be irritable, tend to be withdrawn, tend to show anger, tend to have other things that basically might impact, for example, drinking more. So depression as per se, if you talk to men in general, using the word depression may or may not get to the point because it's really being shown in a different way because of culture and background. And I think that's a very important point. The other piece is when you're doing, for example, the physical exam, as we talked about, men don't cry, but also men don't complain. You tough it out. And so trying to get an honest answer to certain things as you start to get talking about topics that are intimate becomes something that you have to look for signs. You have to be open from a physician standpoint, but also from the man himself to be able to, whether it's joking about it, bringing it about in a different way than just asking direct questions. So I think those are important points in the background.
Those are definitely key. And I wanted to ask in this segment here to ask you to talk about, you talked about depression. With that, you can't say depression without thinking also about anxiety, from part of our culture in medicine, often in law enforcement, also brings, anxiety. And so if I could ask you, with that being said, staying in this vein for a few minutes, the financial impact, things like not being unemployed, not having health insurance. I'll say a phrase that both of you, I'm sure, are very familiar with. For men, how much more of an impact are social determinants of health and finances, sir, are part of it? Can you speak to that for us?
Yeah, I think one very telling number is looking at, we talked about before, longevity data. If you look at the average age or for longevity in someone, for example, in Back Bay, it's 92. If you look in Roxbury, it's 69. That 23-year difference, just that gap, should tell you what the difference is between someone who has economic means and those who don't have access. I think that's an important, impactful statistic that tells you that answer. If you look at poverty in general, there's many times less access or belief that they have less access to healthcare. But that said, if you look at organizations that really don't discriminate in that way and don't have the issues in terms of the diversity, for example, there was a great study done by the VA. And as you know, the VA has all sorts of basically people from all different backgrounds. It turns out that the disparity between longevity, the disparity between men's health and men's outcomes, it's equivalent across white, black, Hispanics, Asians, without differences. And it's pretty remarkable that you can see the data right there in terms of when you have access and you seek it or you get it as a matter of course versus just kind of being left to one's own devices.
One of the things, and I'm going to come to Mackenzie here, is Dr. Carson referenced to own devices. He referenced to, you referenced to when he affirmed the not crying and then not complaining. Mackenzie, if I could ask you to speak to, what Dr. Carson said about a limiting of availability. I know that, primary care physicians, routine and preventative health care is a big part of being healthy. Can you speak to the brothers about how important it is to prioritize health, to complain if there's something wrong, to address it after? For example, my mom is probably on, but my grandmother, years after, he went fully blind, they knew something was up because he drove around the block one night for like same time because he couldn't really make out where he was. Had he addressed it when it first started, he may have not went fully blind. Talk to the brothers about, to Dr. Carson's point about prevention, and to your point, I don't know if in this vein, I don't know if it's as much ignorance as it is a decision around the conditioning of we just got to go hard, get to work, can't take the day off. And so Mackenzie, it's yours.
Yes. So first thing, I could relate even now is like toughen it through because I can't miss day at work. My character is that I got to maintain that reputation at work. So I got to go hard. I got to be strong. So in the importance of the checking it, I think it's just like, you just got to just stop practicing going. And because at times too, I'll be like, yo, I could push through it. I could push through it. I could push through it. Not realizing the damages I'm doing to my body. But also too, me being in this field, I'm a big firm believer of practicing what I preach. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's important to check on your health. Like, even if it's minor, I guess what's going on now too is that I seen a gentleman last year had a cut. That cut ended up being the result of his passing because he didn't take care of the cut. He got infected. And within 2 weeks, he was, to me, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. It's so small. How did he end up dying from a little cut that got infected? You see what I'm saying? So I think with us too is that understanding the patterns that we learn. I'm somebody who has to see it for me to believe it, I should say, right? So, but I guess enough we don't think the reality is not real, I think. So I think, again, starting when they're young, having more health screenings, pretending to like, there's more like different ways to teach young people, like developing a VR, a game, a doctor game, or stuff like that. I think meeting them where they're at, because it's a lot of technology based. Because telling somebody to go to the doctor is like, yeah, I'll go tomorrow, right? Or it's the accessibility, like the timing for going to the doctors, right? If it closes at 5 o'clock and I don't get off till 5 o'clock and I can't get the day off, I can't make it there. I think the timing too is what's throwing people off. And then at times too, there's not enough male physicians. So do I really want to talk to a female physician? It's not gonna. I might feel like I'm gonna be judged, right? To me, I don't care. if I'm sick, I need anybody to take care of me. But it's the comfortability that people who look like me, whether it's a Hispanic physician, it's a Haitian physician, Jamaican physician, somebody who can relate to me, understand my culture. Maybe I like seasoning in my food, but you're telling me, well, you can't have seasoning. If I'm from that culture, I could like use the substitutes for that seasoning. If I suffer from diabetes, find that type of way, right? Understanding the stress factors too is like culturally it might be different, right? Stress is stress, right? But culturally, the stress that you're going through in that culture might be completely different from what I'm going through, right? Like I could relate to you. So I think too is like pushing more for young people to become physicians, but also too, we go back to like getting your licensing to become schooling, all that systematic got changed. But to answer your question and to bring it back, I think the people who are in these us are in these type of positions, they got to get together more and plan more health expos and with more incentivized things, keep it short, sweet, and direct in meeting them where they're at.
Mackenzie, we need to talk because Maureen and I have talked to Dr. Carson. You know, you're welcome as well, but we need to definitely have a conversation because there's something that I want to do in the fall, which is like right around the corner. But we can chat about that. Thank you, one, because a few moments ago you was very transparent about, you know, you made a reference to even right now, you know, I'm pushing through something. You know what I mean? Now, hopefully not now while you're on the show. You should be somewhere getting checked out.
Yeah.
But appreciate you being here, your transparency. Dr. Carson, if I could ask you, when we first started the Your Healthy Java segment, I had a cadre of physicians that would come in, and it was about 21. And we were talking about the systemic changes. We even talked about not saying that the patient of color, marginalized patients, women in some cases, saying the word mistrust puts the ownership on the patient that they're doing something wrong based on what I'm sure you're aware of. There's a lot of history that makes that the system does not allow itself to be trustworthy of the patients. Can you just, it's a kind of off the cuff question, but you referenced culture, you heard what Mackenzie said. Is the system of medicine changing post George Floyd? We know what's going on nationally and things like that, but can you just give us some sort of insight about the system? Are there more people of color in a system changing it? Just, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, sir.
Okay. Well, I think there's a couple of different aspects to think about. So yes, not only is it that there are definitely more people of color within the system. One thing that Mackenzie touched upon, there are actually now more women physicians and nurse practitioners that are doing primary care than there are men. That is true. But it's not such a high skew that it's like, 70-30. It's more probably about 55 to 60-40. So that's one piece. There definitely is a push in terms of medical school admissions to have a higher profile, higher diversity in terms of the class, and not making it, we've heard in the press, that there have been lowering standards or not. And that's not the case. So I just wanted to point out that doesn't mean that if someone is of color that they've been entered into their class because of some other kind of, lower bar. No, not at all. I do think there are biases in a different sense, though, as well. And it's not anything other than a financial problem from a healthcare standpoint. And it's how healthcare gets paid for in this country. And so, for example, even if you look at tiers within Mass Health itself, there are different tiers that basically at the lowest end just takes care of emergency issues and antibiotics. And at a higher end really does much more to take care of prevention. But prevention is actually, unfortunately, at the lower tiers, not part of the package that's offered. the other thing too, and you see this because of immigration and the other fears that occur, there is definitely within our community here that we take care of at Harvard Street, a fear of going somewhere public. So that's added yet another wrinkle today in terms of the biases of people showing up. You know, as an example, even yesterday, we had a very large no-show rate because of perceived increased activity from ICE in the neighborhood. So we had one of the all-time lowest no-show rates because of that. So there are a number of things within the system. There's a number of external factors. But there's also one other thing I want to bring up that Mackenzie touched upon, and that's that love language. Again, from a cultural standpoint, we have a lot of single moms, a lot of single moms. And so even the people who are clinical staff here, many are single moms. So children are growing up without seeing or noticing, understanding love language just because they don't see it every day. And so how does that affect, and how do we fill that gap so that there's more to it than just sexual conquest? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Finish the point, and then I'm going to say something to let Mackenzie say something as well. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. And so I've been struggling with that to try to bring an understanding that it's more than just the sexual act. And yes, there's consequences, but there needs to be a cultural understanding that at least what I see today is a gap. And I'm not going to say it's a lack, it's just not there.
Listen, let me say something to you, Dr. Carson. We appreciate it. Both the fact that you thought you needed to stop because Mackenzie and I went to church and was pointing at the camera as to say amen. Mackenzie and Dr. Carson, I'm going to be honest with you. Mackenzie, when you brought up that point in the point of emotional intelligence and love language, I will be honest with you. I thought Dr. Carson said sexual conquest, but I was thinking just on a romantic level of intimacy for a brother, safe space, being able, just to, chat, talk. And it isn't always sexual, massage, back rub, all of that. And then him providing that to the partner as well. Dr. Carson, while we may know this in the emotional intelligence piece, the correlation of the children not seeing it, we know it is elementary, but to hear it articulated right after Mackenzie said what he said, whoa, because that's a huge part to your thing of violence and other stuff. So Mackenzie, go ahead to respond to what Dr. Carson said, because we both was about to throw our shoe at the camera.
Correct. And that's something I think that's one of the reasons why I'm in the process of developing the emotional intelligence, because I work at a group home also, and me being the positive male role model there creates the attachment aspect, right? Me being at the Boston Public Health Commission, being able to not being your friend, but being a positive advisor creates that bond right then and there, right? So the positive need for a father, not just a male role model, I then start filling that cup of being a father. And that's when it becomes difficult at this point. I got to set the boundaries, listen, right? Without saying it, kind of setting that boundary there for not just being the positive role model, but also too helping them navigate through things, because they need that father figure. Now it moves another step, that father figure in the home. This is why you're seeing more lashing out, more anger, because again, too, it's just not that positive male presence around, right? So it becomes environmental with that piece also.
I think
I just want to come back to one word: language. And the reason I say the word language is because how do we learn language? We're in our home. You weren't given English instruction by your parents, or French or Haitian Creole or Spanish. You grew up in that environment, and that was the language you learned, and it was inherent to your home life. Having to address a new language is a very difficult thing, and a lot of people have trouble learning foreign languages. So I just want to focus on that word language for a moment, because I think it's an important point that's beyond just the simple phrase of love language.
Sir, you got me
Yeah,
stuttering. So
and
go ahead, Mackenzie, go
and
ahead.
I agree too, because at times, right, because everything's so sexualized. So giving a young person a side hug, right, not realizing that somebody needs about 50 hugs a day to release that positive chemical, right? A side hug, some type of like, yo, good words of affirmation or some positive reinforcement for them, right? Because sometimes we reward negative things for positive reinforcement, right? So, but the congratulating, the dap, the like, yo, that brotherly love, and that's teaching that language, the act of service, like helping them is as small as like, yo, bro, you wrote this kind of wrong. Let me help you write this out. Let me guide you to this, right? The act of service, the gifting, not because it's a transactional relationship. Man, you did a wonderful job. Let me take you out to reward you for achieving that milestone, right? And a lot of times too, if therapy could be done like just us conversing and having food, that opens up a lot. So those are things that the languages that it's foreign, but you can ease it in and help them out.
Mackenzie, as we get ready to wrap up, I'm going to ask you to kind of speak on the other side of this is what are the results if we don't take care of our health and also be intentional? You're both aware that the incidents of violence in Boston have increased for various type of reasons. We know the mayor said it here on the show. Domestic violence is a part of it. Other types of intimate partner violence is a part of it. If we, there's some I'm making some judgment. I'm making some value statements here and presumptions that have a little bit of data. We know that the greatest population of a lot of these incidents tend to be Black and brown men. I would presume if you did some research and you looked at the data that they may, some good portion, have not been as exposed to emotional intelligence, the love language in the non-sexual form. Parents, Dr. Carson, I love what you said, because a 3-month-old don't understand anything, excuse my vernacular, but the rubbing of the head that the mother and the father does, like that's language. Mackenzie, as we get ready to wrap, talking a little bit about violence, I'm asking it like this, not as a scare tactic to your point earlier, but just the point of it, but because some people may really be ignorant. They think cats are out here just shooting to be shooting. Bruh, this unaddressed on the emotional intelligence end, and then you can also speak to the proactive, routine, and preventative healthcare. What are the results if we don't prioritize both?
If you don't prioritize it, I'm seeing it now, right? We won't be able to tell the age group difference because, again, too, studies show the more you're stressed, you're engaging in different behaviors, you are becoming older. You right. So now, like people are like, oh, Mac, you look the same. You look young. I'm 45, right? So sometimes I look younger than the kids that I'm serving. So what's going to happen is I'm not going to be able to differentiate what age group we are in right now because you look older than. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's about life hits you. That's where we're going to become, and life expectancy is going to be shorter. Like now, I love being called Unc. You can call me Unc. That means I'm experienced, right? I'm not. I don't take that as disrespect. That's Unc right there. Because a lot of times people are not able to make it this far now, and that's what's happening right now. If we don't take care of what's taken care of, because being called Unc to me is a badge of honor. It's not disrespect. That means I have the knowledge and I'm willing to teach. So that's what's going to happen if we don't take care of this stuff.
I appreciate it, Mackenzie. And Dr. Carson, from your standpoint, from a medical standpoint, and you can speak to it as being a man and someone that serves in this community and understands, presumably understand, well, based on a lot of stuff you said today, understands this community. What are the repercussions of not prioritizing your health and emotional intelligence? What are you seeing in demonstration in the body keeping score?
Early disease, kind of summing it up. If you look at some of the key things for men we haven't touched upon, like prostate cancer, erectile dysfunction, the idea of just going for prevention and exams leads to early heart attacks, early strokes. Um, Smoking leads to increased incidence in both, and there's a higher incidence in this community. The idea also, the screening for prostate cancer, for example, used to be 50 and above. Now it's dropped to 40 to 45 for very good reasons, and particularly in the Black community. There is a almost twofold increase in dying from prostate cancer because of not having screening early in the Black community across the nation. And specifically in Boston, 700 men per year, at least at the moment, are predicted to die from prostate cancer, which should not happen.
In a year?
In Boston. Yeah.
Hold on. I heard Boston. Did you say that 700 within a year are predicted?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the latest Department of Public Health numbers. So those things, erectile dysfunction, even though, people have a problem talking about it, if you start to mention it, it can help us find that you in fact might have heart disease that hasn't shown itself yet, or diabetes that hasn't shown itself yet. So it can be actually a life-saving thing, not just because you might think you're tired or just not with it. So those kinds of understandings to kind of get in front of things is much, much easier to deal with than having to fix things or it's too late.
But both of you summed that up well. And I want to appreciate both of you for being here. We are very close to time. We're doing pretty good within, I think I said a half an hour, 45 minutes, but this was important. And I love just the natural conversation that we had as men from a clinical standpoint and from a in-service active provider standpoint, who also happens to be a Black man and understands the disparities that Dr. Carson had named as well. And so I just hope that the information, we didn't, to Dr. Carson's point, there were a couple of things that we didn't key in on, but I hope that everyone listening, from mothers, daughters, nephews, aunties, godchildren, parents, share this information and talk to the brothers about prioritizing their health and being emotionally intelligent. And Dr. Carson, I'll kind of end with this based on the point that we were talking about, Mackenzie, and Dr. Carson, about the love language not being just sexual. And Mackenzie, I know what you said about harm reduction, not scare tactics. I'm a type of person by any means necessary. If you go and tell a brother that he can be prepared to when the love language is about that he can be better prepared to fulfill his responsibility in order to get them into care, I don't care. By any means necessary, get into care. And God forbid, at least you can treat maybe just regular ED, but you'll get screened to find out that it's not diabetes and it's not a heart condition because you don't have enough red blood cells running to where they need to go. So I'm just going to leave that part there. Dr. Carson, closing words, and then Mackenzie will have you fully close it out.
Okay. One thing that I think you just said that I'd like to dovetail, which is meeting the person where they're at. And so reading and understanding what it will take to motivate them and finding that moment where you could actually make the difference and motivate them is a really key point. You don't want to beat them over the head, but understanding what it's going to do and what it's going to take. I think that's really key that you just mentioned. There's one other interesting piece I just want to throw in, because I always found it, because one of the issues about men's health and also in talking about the community is fertility issues. And so I just want to throw this point in that a lot of people don't realize that in terms of fertility, 40% of the problem is women, 40% of the problem are men, and 20% are unknown. If you look at the research that's being done, what's phenomenal to me is that 50% of the research money is being looked at in women, and then about 25 to 30 men, even though this data that I'm telling you is well known. And so you can always imagine who's in control of the funding. and whether it's females or males. But that piece in terms of research funding has also fascinated me from a long time.
And we didn't get into it because you said it. I'll just name this very quickly. Research, clinical trials. It's important for Black and brown people and men to be in those as well. And so maybe we'll chat more about that later.
But it's not always the woman. That's where I'm going.
I almost said Dr. McKenzie. You might need to go get your doctorate in a couple of other spaces. But McKenzie, final word, sir. Close us out.
Of course, this is what happened to me. The fire alarm's going off. But let's remember that the body keeps score, and the goal is to be on offense, not defense. So just pay attention to your mind, and you be the coach of the game.
I'll say that the fire alarm going off at that point is an affirmation about the importance of paying attention to this. So we'll just leave that right there, sir. That was a good sound effect there for the clip after. So McKenzie and Dr. Carson, thank you both. McKenzie, I will definitely follow up. Tell my folks there, Matt Parker, Dr. Yablo, Dr. Basola, and everybody upstairs in the suite that I said hello at the Health Commission, and I appreciate you, sir. Dr. Carson as well, and tell Juliana and other folks over at the commission at the health center that I said hey as well.
Much appreciated.
Thank you both for being here. Folks, I hope that you really, especially for our brothers and the men, got the information that you needed to get and stay healthy through our partnership with Action for Boston Community Development Health Services. And so we will be back tomorrow. I am excited about tomorrow's guest. I always love celebrating young people, and I always especially love celebrating our young kings and princes that are doing great things. There's so much negative information out there about them, but we want to make sure that they are celebrated when they're doing great things. There is this brother by the name of Makai that is known as the King of the Tea. And I noticed something, I think it was on social media. I had noticed a post, I think, and I don't think we just became friends, but him and his mom and I are friends on social media. And so I was just compelled to reach out and ask Brother Makai, King of the Tea, to join us for We Need to Know Wednesday tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So please come in for an inspiring story. There's so much going on that I thought that some good news would be important and lift up this young man that is doing great and knows the history, can tell by the sound of the screeching of the train which line it is, which is, I think I can. Orange line, the Soul Train, oh, for sure. But the blue, the green, the orange line and the red line, I can decipher the difference between the screeching. All right, folks, that's it for me. Thank you for everyone that participated in the conversation this morning. We don't have a opportunity to say good morning to everyone, but good morning to everybody. And la-di-da-di. No, I'm messing. Thank you all for being here today, and we will see you again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Oh, and don't forget, a couple of programming things. Thursday night is the last show, and I am supposed to be on break through Election Day, but through a partnership, I have to bring a guest in. And we didn't talk about this about men's health, but we're going to start talking about problem gambling. Parlays, scratch tickets. Middle schoolers right now are in the realm of young people participating more in gambling type behavior. So on the 26th, on We Need to Know, next Wednesday, we will come together only on that Wednesday, but from Thursday night until Election Day. Well, show-wise until Election Day, but I'm going to be off until like the end of September. All right, folks, I'm off of here, and we'll see you again with Brother Makai again tomorrow at 10 a.m. to talk to the King of the Tea. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.